good. So here we are. This is 2.2. Section 2.2. This is problem number 13. It's the second part of this section. And notice we have an equation, an equal sign, which means we have a left side and a right side. So all of our thinking is left side, right side. And we want to solve this equation. And so what are we going to do to solve this equation? Remember about this right here? Remember what we have to do with denominators? And yeah, we did do something like this, huh? With denominators, remember those 4 steps I gave you? And I said the first step is to factor denominators, right? So I'm going to factor, so step 1, factor denominator. So I'm going to factor that denominator. How do you factor 3x plus 3? Put the 3 in the front, huh? What does that leave in the parentheses? X plus 1, right? That good? Because that 3 could multiply and be right back to both those. Okay. And then over here, that all just stays the same. So first step, factor that denominator. Okay. And now, what do we do? So we definitely have fractions tonight. So this will be good. This will be a good review as we take our test. Even we're going to have fractions on tonight's test. So what do we do when we have fractions with an equal sign like that? We got to find the L. We multiply the LCD over 1, right? You multiply every term, both sides, by the LCD over 1, right? And what is the LCD?
It's common denominator.
Yeah, and so how do you find it? You multiply every item in the denominator. How about rather than that's true. Multiply all denominator items, right? But you only take one of each. One of each type, right? You know what I'm talking about? So I'm going to look at the denominator. I'm going to go, okay, I need an x plus 1. I need a 2. I need a 3. And then I don't need that other x plus 1 because I already got one. So just one of each type of thing you see in the denominator. Right? That's how we handle that. That'll be on today's test as well. You'll have some questions with fractions. And so you take one of everything in a denominator, put them all together, that's the LCD. All right, so what's the LCD going to be then if you put all that together? What is 2 times 3? 6, right? 2 and 3 both go into 6, don't they? So the LCD is going to be 6 x plus 1 over 1, 6 x plus 1 over 1, 6, whoop, try that again, 6 x plus 1 over 1. See how I multiplied every term, left, middle, and right, by that? That's what we do when we have fractions, don't we? When we have fractions with an equal sign, you multiply LCD over 1, LCD over 1, LCD over 1. And the LCD came from putting together one of everything in the denominator. So now we're going to cross cancel. Right? Step 3. That's a C there. Cross cancel. Cross cancel. Multiply whatever is left over. So x plus 1 cancels x plus 1. What's left over? 6 times 7, 42. Good so far? Now what happens in the middle? What's that 2 going to cross cancel into? 2 goes into 6. 3 times. What's left over? 3 and x plus 1. What happens on the right side? Well, the x plus 1s certainly cancel. What about the 3? 3 goes into the 6. 2 times. What's left over after all that crossing off on the right side? 2 times 2, 4. Much nicer, right? Look at that. No more fractions. So much cleaner. Now let's distribute that minus 3. So we get 42 minus 3x minus 3. See how I was careful to watch the negative sign there? That negative 3 goes boom and boom, doesn't it? Is that good there? And now, let's just gather some like terms. 42 minus 3. I don't even know. What is that? 39. I just combine those, right? X is down here saying, I want to be alone. Get rid of all this stuff so I can be alone. So what's my next step? Subtract that 39, huh? Gonzo. Minus 3x is what? Minus 35. Last step in solving for x is almost always divide by exactly what's next to x. Negative 3, boom. So there's those two negatives, what do? Positive 35 thirds. There we go. So number 14, this was graphic. So half of this chapter is really a lot about graphing. And so we did some equations. 1 through 13 was equations. So now this one is, they're giving me this picture, and they're saying find the slope of that line. So do you remember from earlier algebra courses maybe, how do you find the slope of a line? Yeah, remember that? Slope is rise divided by run. That's right. Okay, so how am I going to figure out rise divided by run? What you need to do is find a point, find 2 points that are right on the crosshairs, right on 2 lines crossing. Like for example, there's a real easy one right there, right? See that? You know, find where the red line crosses right on a clear point. Do you see another place where it crosses? Like notice I wouldn't want to try to go here or here because it's hard to tell exactly where those even are. You know what I mean? Where else is it right on a grid line? That looks like a good one right there, huh? Yeah, it looks like this one and this one are right on the grid lines, so there's no mistake, huh? So grab 2 of them right on the grid lines. Making sense? So we know exactly where those spots are. So let me grab those again. So right here and right here. Okay, so I'll grab those. Yeah, those are the only 2. Oh, I guess I could have done this one also, huh? You know, any 2, it doesn't matter. Grab any 2 that are right on the grid lines, and then just figure out what the rise over run is between those 2 points. What am I talking about? Well, I just mean how do you go from one to the other? It doesn't matter which one you start with. It'll work either way. Let me show you. You could go over 1, 2, 3. That's it. Over 3. And down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So over 3, down 5. That takes you from one point to the other. So which one of those is rise? Because we said slope is rise over run. Which one of those is rise? Yeah, this has got to be the rise because it's up and down, huh? And this has got to be a run because, you know, people run sideways, flat, right, on the ground. So the rise is the negative 5, and the run is the positive 3. We're done. That's the slope of that line. Rise over run. Let me redo it, though. I think it's good to see it again. What if I had gone the other way? Like what I claimed that it'll work either way. What if you start down here and go back up to that one? Let's try that. So starting, what if I'd gone up and said, now remember, as you move, up is positive movement, right? Down is negative movement. Right is positive, and left is negative. We all good? We all know that? So as I go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up, that's certainly my rise. And now what do? 1, 2, 3, left. So what's that? Left? Negative 3, run, left. So now I would get rise, positive 5, over run, negative 3. But 1 positive over 1 negative? Still negative. Remember, it doesn't matter where a negative is on a fraction. Top, bottom, front's all the same thing. 1 negative is just negative. See how you get the same answer? Doesn't matter which way you go. I like that about math. As long as you're logical. It doesn't matter your style. It'll work out. What if I'd gone, what if I'd gone, say, from this point down to, that one looks like it's right on a grid, right? What if I'd done that? Would that work? 1, 2, 3 over, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. Same thing. So that's just how that line, slopes. He goes over 3 down 5, right? Over 3 down 5, over 3 down 5, over 3 down 5. That's just his steepness level, isn't it? That's his slope. Good there? Making sense? All right, number 15. Find the equation for the line that passes through 1, 8, has slope -4. Give your answer in point slope form. Okay. Yeah, let me get that in first. 1, 8 and slope -4. This is number 15. All right, so point 1, 8, slope equals -4. 1, 8, slope -4. Give your answer in point slope form. Okay. Give you a game plan. So when they say the words, and I didn't write them, find the equation. That's the key phrase in this section. When they say find the equation, there's 3 steps. Number 1, find the slope. Sometimes that's more difficult. In this case, they're just handing it to us. Step 2, write the following formula. M equals y minus blank over x minus blank. Step 3, cross multiply. All right, so first off, on this one, step 1, what is the slope? Yeah, that's just clear. Sometimes they'll be more tricky than that. There's handing it to us this time. I'm going to go on step 2 now. So there's step 1. Step 2, m equals y minus blank over x plus. Have you seen that before? Have you seen the slope formula before? Have you seen this formula? Let me show you. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x. You don't need to write that down. But I'm just saying, do you remember that formula? Have you seen that before? That's formula for finding slope. We'll probably use that. I don't even remember. We'll see as we go on. That's for finding slope. Well, that's what I'm basically using here. It's a simple version of that slope formula where I'm pulling out the 2's and the 1's and just making it plain y and plain x, and I'm leaving blanks at the back. So it's a simple form of this same formula, which I'm hoping is familiar to you, the slope formula. All right, so I'm using that, and so now, and I should have added to this step, plug in your slope, your x, and your y. So we're going to take that and we're going to plug into it slope, x, and y. M, what does M stand for? Slope. Why don't they use S? Why do they use M for slope? Actually, I wondered that for years. I'm not sincerely asking you. It's because a student actually told me about a few years ago. He was from France, and he said there's a French. A lot of this algebra was discovered by French people back in the 1800s, and there's a word in French that starts with an M that means steepness, so mountainous, slope. Anyway, you don't care, but M is slope. M is slope. Just remember, it's weird that it is, but it is. M is slope. So pop in the slope right there. They'll use M a lot, and it stands for slope. Okay. Y minus x minus. So I plugged in the slope on the left side, -4. Now, what do you think I'm going to put behind the x and behind the y? This is x, and this is y. Remember points when they give you the 2 numbers? The first one's always x, the second one's always y. They go alphabetical order, just like in the alphabet, right? X, Y, Z, right? X comes first, then comes y. So stick the x number behind the x and the y behind the y. Does that make sense what I just did there? I just took that x and put it right there behind the x, grab that y, put it right there behind the y. All right, so that's step 2. I plugged in the slope, the x, and the y to that formula. Now, what's step 3? Cross multiply. How do we cross multiply? What am I talking about? Put this over 1 and go diagonal, diagonal. Have you seen that before? 2 equal fractions, diagonal, diagonal. Cross multiply. So -4 times times x minus 1 is 1 times y minus 8. So that's a technique we'll use a lot in this class. Cross multiply. So these two multiply and these two multiply. Oh, actually, we'll, how do they want this? Oh, they just want, yeah, let me finish this up. We're basically done. Don't distribute, I'm sorry, don't distribute through those parentheses. They did a weird thing. They said answer in point slope form. And what that means, when they say answer in point slope form, they mean get the y minus number thing alone. It's not gonna be a problem on the real test. I won't care. Remember, it's just multiple choice, so it won't matter what form, you're just grabbing the right one. So it's not a big deal. But anyway, when they said, if you look at this question back here, if you look back at the original question, they said, give your answer in point slope form. What does that mean? Well, it's kind of a weird thing. It means get the y minus parenthesis piece alone. So this piece right here, we need to get him alone. So who's with him? The 1, which means we just need to get rid of the 1. So divide by 1. So y minus 8. What is negative 4 divided by 1? It's just negative 4. It does nothing. Done. That's all they want. Just like that. With you? So look at 16. They say those same magic words. Write an equation. So what were the 3 steps when they say find an equation, write an equation, same thing? What's the first step? Slope. Yeah, first step is find the slope. So what's the slope? Can you find the slope of that? Slope is rise over run. So find 2 points right on the grid lines, like this point here and that point there, right? Those are the 2 I'm seeing that are right on the grid lines. All right, we good? So now, so what's the slope? It goes over what? 1, 2, and down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So over 2, down 5. So the down 5 is the rise, isn't it? Over 2, positive 2, we good? Right 2, down 5. And remember, we're counting jumps from line to line. We're counting jumps. So it's right 2, that's the run, down 5 to get there. Okay, so that's the slope. What's step 2?
The m.
Yeah, m equals y minus blank over x minus blank. Okay, bless you. So, what do you do now? And then you plug stuff in. Plug in what stuff? This is the slope. So negative 5 over 2. And what do we put behind y and x? Yeah. We have to plug in an x and a y. What x and y? Well, we have to go get our own x and y. So, for example, you can grab that point. Yeah, that'd be a nice one. What's the coordinates of that dot right there? That's 0, 3. Does everybody see that? Because from the origin, from right here from the origin, it's over 0, up 1, 2, 3, isn't it? How are we doing? Is that making sense? Over 0, up 3. So, remember, the first number's an x and the second number's a y. So that's 0 behind x and 3 behind y. Is that good? And now, what are we going to do from here? Yeah, cross. Now, by the way, what is x take away nothing? It's just x, right? So when we cross multiply, so negative 5, I'm just going to make it x, because x take away nothing, that's just x, is 2 times y minus 3. So that's step 3. I should say we're doing step 3. Cross or actually we did it up here, didn't we? Step 3, we cross multiply. Cross multiply. And then that's what? Minus 5x, and then distribute 2y minus 6. See how they want y alone over here? So I got to get there. They're saying, y is saying I want to be alone. So what do I got to do to finish getting y alone? Add the 6. It's gone. 2y is minus 5x plus 6. Last step to get y alone. Divide by 2. So it's minus 5 halves x plus 3, isn't it? Because 6 divided by 2 is 3. And there it is. Minus 5 halves x plus 3. We got it. Okay, let's see. So that was what number was that? 16. Is this one 17? Yeah, 17. Okay. Yeah, what's the equation of that red line right there? That's kind of a weird one. It's straight up and down. Yeah, where does it hit the x-axis right here? At 9, it's simply x equals 9, done. When it's a straight up and down line or straight sideways line, it only has one letter. So if the line is vertical, like that one, it's just x equals a number. If the line is horizontal, flat, they'll give us some of those. Now if it's horizontal like this one's vertical. If it's horizontal, it's just going to be y equals a number. See, these kinds of equations don't have both letters. They only have one of the letters. Right? Look back at the last one. See this last one we just did? This line is slanted. It's not straight up and down. It's not straight sideways. It's slanted. So the equation ends up having both x and y in it. Doesn't it? Well, if the line is not slanted, if it's perfectly straight up and down or perfectly sideways, if it's straight up and down, it's just going to have x. If it's perfectly sideways, it's just going to have y, because it'll only be hitting the y-axis if it's sideways, and it's only going to be hitting the x-axis if it's straight up and down. The x-axis hitting the y-axis. So that one's easy. 18. Find the equation. So here we go again. 18 is going to be just like those other ones. Let's go do that one. Bring it over here. Just a little more space. So 18. Find the equation. And this time they're giving us different kind of information. They're saying the point is 8, negative 9, and 10, 5. Okay, same 3 steps. What's step number 1? Yeah, whenever it says find the equation, step 1 is find the slope. We got to get a slope. Okay, now how are we going to get a slope here? Yeah, we're going to use that formula I mentioned briefly, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the slope formula. We're using a simple version of that thing, and we still will on step 2. But first we use this version. Do you remember this from your algebra days? So now we're going to plug into that thing. Now how do we plug in? What's all the x and the y stuff? Well, this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. So remember, every point is x, y, x, y. This is the first point's x and y value. The second point's x and y value. So that's what we mean by x1, y1, and x2, y2. So let's plug that in. So y2 comes first. That's the 5. Subtract. Now notice there's a subtraction. In fact, let me go with the same color so it's really clear in your mind. I'll use the black there. So notice the subtraction symbol is built into the formula. In addition to that, y1 happens to be a negative number. So what are those two negatives going to do? Positive, right? So there's the negative from the formula. There's a negative top and bottom of the fraction just as part of the warp and the woof of the formula, right? It's just part of the formula. And then if you also plug in negative numbers, you get the double negative thing happening. You know what that's going to do. I'll just circle it right now and just say plus, huh? It's going to become add 9, isn't it? On the bottom, we've got x2, so what's that? That's 10. Subtract x1, which is 8. So we get 5 plus 9 over 10 minus 8. 14 over 2, 7. The slope is 7. That's step 1. Step 2, what do we always do on these find the equation problems? Write the M formula again. It's like we're using it a second time, but this time the easier way, the simple version, where we have the blanks in the back. We don't have 4 numbers. We only have 2, right? Blanks in the back, and this is just plain Y, plain X, not Y1 or Y2 or X1 or X2. It's plain Y, plain X, blanks in the back, and then we plug in the M, the X, and the Y. So what's the M? What's the slope? That's what we just found in step 1. That's why we did all that, huh? That's the 7. You're going to plug that in right there. And what's the Y and the X? You could grab either pair. Either grab this X and Y and pop them in, or grab that X and Y and pop them in. It'll work the same. Surprisingly, it doesn't seem like it would, does it? It will. It'll work out the same either way. Grab whichever pair seems right to you. I'll just grab this first pair right here and plug in the X is 8 and the Y is negative 9. Careful to put them in the right spot. There's just a natural tendency to grab the front number and put it at the top, but that would be wrong. X's go on the bottom. Y's go on the top. Does that make sense what we did there? So you could have grabbed the other pair. It would have worked just fine. Okay, so what does that give us? This is 7 equals Y plus, again, the double negative, going to become plus, over X minus 8. Okay, how do we simplify? So what's step 3 now? Cross multiply. So how do I cross multiply when there's a whole number over there? Put a 1, diagonal, diagonal. So we get 7 times X minus 8 is 1 times Y plus 9. See what happened there? Diagonal, those two go together, and then those two go together. Now, on this one, I think they asked us for that point slope formula again. They don't want us to get Y alone, I think. Let's see. What number are we on? 18. They say, yeah, give your answer in point slope. Point slope. So, point slope, again, what point slope means, whenever they say answer in point slope, that always means the Y plus or minus a number alone. So instead of Y alone, they want the whole parentheses Y thing alone. So here's the parentheses Y thing. How do I get it alone? Divide by the 1. That cancels. So Y plus 9 equals 7 over 1. That's just 7. Doesn't do anything, huh? There it is. There's what they want. So I got the parentheses Y alone. Y plus 9 is 7x minus 8. There's the formula, the equation. All right. So write the equation. Let's go through our 3 steps. What's the first step? Slope. And that's going to be the challenging part. The rest is going to be no. Once we get through step 1, step 2 and 3 is the same as all the rest. No big deal. So step 1's the trick on this one especially. Find the slope. So do you realize what they're saying? They're telling us about some kind of a line. They want us to find the equation of it, and it's perpendicular to some other line. This over here is not our line. This is some other line. This is some other line's equation, I should say. Right? That's the equation for some other line. That's not our line. That's some other line's equation. But our line is related. They have a relationship. Our line is related to that line. How so? Perpendicular. So you know what perpendicular is? Remember, 90 degrees? Like intersection, right? You're going through a signal light, right? That streets that go opposite directions. That's perpendicular. They meet in a T, in other words, right? 90-degree angle. So perpendicular lines go the opposite direction. So perpendicular is a fancy word for, 90 degrees. A line that goes like that and a line that goes like that. They go in opposite directions. And what does that mean about the slope? Does anybody remember the slope of perpendicular lines? But I'm glad to show you. Slope, it means it's the opposite side. So perpendicular slope means opposite sign and upside down. Reciprocal, in other words. Upside down and opposite sign both.
I wrote that, but I didn't know how to explain it.
Yeah, that's what perpendicular is. So, in other words, I've got to find that line slope and then take it and flip it and change the sign, and that'll be our slope. Because ours is perpendicular to that one. Not a simple deal. Okay, so what's that other line slope? This is the other line's equation. What is his slope? The other line's slope. Well, the other line's equation is y equals 3x plus 2. Do you remember y equals mx plus b?
Yeah.
And what's the m? So what's that line slope? It must be 3. So the other line's slope is 3. Remember y equals mx plus b? Another thing they assume you remember. Y equals mx plus b. So when you have y alone, the number in front of x is the slope. Automatically. Only when you have y alone, though. Not when you have other stuff going on. But if you have y alone, the number next to x is the slope. They call that y equals mx plus b. So 3 is that line's slope. So that's the other line's slope. So what's our line's slope? If the other line's slope is 3, and ours is perpendicular, and perpendicular means opposite sign and upside down. In other words, everything's opposite. That's what, right? Totally, streets going complete different directions, right? So everything. So how do you take that 3 and flip it? 1 over 3 and make it negative. Because it was positive, regular 3. So you flip it and change the sign. So our slope must be negative 1/3. Does that make sense? I took their slope, flipped it, changed the sign. That's the hard part. The rest is the same. We'll do it anyway, but the rest is the same. So now that we got our slope, you know what to do. We write m equals y minus blank over x minus blank, and we plug in the x and the y in the slope. Plug in m, x, and y. M, x, and y. And so there's the slope. Boom, right there. What are we going to plug in for the x and the y?
3.
Yeah, right up here, huh? They gave me an x right here. They gave me a y right here. So I'm going to plug in the 3 and the negative 2, the x and the y from the point they gave me. So, all right. So now, negative 1/3 is y double negative here. Plus 2 over x minus 3. Okay. What's step 3? Yeah, cross multiply. Cross multiply. So, okay, so when I cross multiply that, here's my question. This negative sign right here, when I go like, diagonal that way, is that negative going to go with that 1?
Yes.
And then when I go the other diagonal, is that negative going to go with that 3?
Yes.
Both?
Yes.
One or the other?
No.
Both?
But the one, I thought that negative could go to the top.
So it's all about what's true. Say and do what's true, and you're always fine in math. I love that about math. Style doesn't matter. Say and do what's true, and you're good. Say and do what's false, and you're no good. So here's the truth. What truth am I talking about? Well, think about a fraction for a minute. When you have a negative on a fraction, is that the same? Is it true to say that equals 2 negatives? No. We know that's not true, right? Because what's 2 negatives? Positive. Which this is certainly not positive. So should I put the negative on both? No, it's not true, is it? Well, then what do you do? Either one. Top only or bottom only. Because both those are negative, aren't they? Remember I've said a couple times, a negative on a fraction, top, bottom, front, it doesn't matter, but don't do both. 2 negatives would be positive, wouldn't it? Isn't that what's true? So then we go back, okay. So so my habit is usually top. I just go top, but you could go bottom. Just don't do both, because that is not true. So yeah, so I just throw it on the top there. And then so I take it with the top. So negative 1 times x minus 3 is 3 times y plus 2. So I put it on the top. And then we distribute. Negative x plus 3, distribute 3y plus 6. Like that. And we got to do a little bit more. They want y alone, I think. Didn't I see that they wanted y alone? On this one? I think they want y alone on this one. Yeah, they do. All right, so let me bring it up here. Negative x plus 3 is 3y plus 6. So y said I want to be alone. So what do we do? Subtract that 6. Cancels out. So we get negative x minus 3. And now last step to get y alone. Divide by 3. Remember, when you divide, though, you've got to divide through all of them. Like that. And so we get minus x over 3 minus 1. There it is. We got that y alone. So that was it. That was a hard one. So recapping, so they gave us some other line. Its slope was 3 because when y is alone, the number next to x is the slope. And then we had to flip it and change the sign, negative 1/3, because our line's perpendicular to theirs. And then we did the rest kind of like normal, plug in and cross multiply. How are we doing? Maybe we got one more. Questions on that one? 20, last one. So line 1, they're going to give us a couple lines. Line 1 goes through the point 4, negative 1, 4, negative 1, and negative 4, 11. And then line 2 goes through the point negative 2, 9, and negative 2, 9, and 0, 6. 6. Okay, and they want the slope of both, and then, yeah, from there. Okay. So they want us to find the slope of this line. So how do you find the slope when you got a couple of points like that? y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's rise over run. See how that's rise? Because y values are rise and x values are run. Slope is always rise over run. Y values are up and down. X values are sideways. All right, so what's all that x and y stuff? This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So plug that in. Don't forget the built-in minus signs. That's going to be built into the formula, a couple subtractions. That's in addition to anything plugged in that's negative. So let's see what we got. So we got x, so y2 coming first. That's 11 minus y1, negative 1, over x2, negative 4, minus x1, 4. All right, double negative. Right there, positive. So it's 11 plus 1 over minus 4, minus 4. That's 12 over minus 8. How can you reduce that fraction? Yeah, divide by 4, top and bottom. So we'll get minus 3/2. See how I just grabbed that minus and pulled it to the front? Remember, it doesn't matter. Bottom, top, front, it's all the same thing. And then the second one, what's the slope on the second one? Same thing, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We're doing it again. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. So first comes, so there's built-in subtraction symbols from the formula. And y2, 6, minus y1, 9, over x2, 0, minus x1, negative 2. So there we go with the double negative. Becomes positive. 6 minus 9 is negative 3, over 0 plus 2, negative 3/2. Look at that. The slopes came out the same, didn't they? And so they're going to ask us, hey, are those lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither? Parallel. Because they're the same. Two lines headed in the same direction with the same steepness are parallel, aren't they? Yeah, they're parallel. They have the same exact steepness, same exact slopes. So that's parallel.